I made Sussy Schoolgrounds Chapter 3, but it's RTX ON, and here's how I done did it. We've got a Sussy Wussy ruling the playground and a Munkus Lunkus lurking in the classroom. These are two PolyMars created chapters, but the community has been busy too, creating some awesome fan-made chapters. Huge shout out to Plownouse for taking the reins and creating Chapter 3, which features the one, the only, Chunky Funky. Now to create the giant red, not a monkey, Chunky Funky, we have no stuffed toy to take reference from. Fortunately for us, Chunky Funky has a head like Sussy and a body like Munkus. So I took Sussy Wussy and I decapitated him. And I took Munkus Lunkus and I decapitated him too. Then I Frankensteined the Sussy head and the Munkus body into one and made it red. This is close, but the body has some proportional differences. Chunky Funky has really little legs and a long torso as well as long arms. So I stretched and resized the Munkus skeleton to get it just right, and I applied those stretch changes. I had to do a little bit of hair card painting, but thankfully no new hair cards were made this time. I've had enough of that nightmare for a lifetime. From now on, all my mascots will be bald, because bald is beautiful. Bruh. And with that, Chunky Funky was born. Because we used the Munkus Lunkus skeleton, that is a morphed version of the Mixamo skeleton, Mixamo had no problems animating Chunky Funky. So I got him walking and attack animations, plus a T-pose for good measure. Environment time. The Chunky Funky environment is like a maze with multiple rooms connected by intersecting hallways. We need an art class, a gym, a cafeteria, and 3 regular classrooms. Here is a map that I quickly sketched out, and those yellow spots are where the bananas are. For the classrooms, I recycled the Munkus Lunkus classroom, made it slightly different dimensions, and then I started lining up wall pieces to make the hallways. The art class needs easels, of course, so I found this really cool easel on Sketchfab, and I edited the texture to make the canvas white. The model actually came in several parts, so I merged them together inside of Unreal Engine to make it one mesh. And then I placed the easels appropriately. The art class also has a display table with a banana on it. I found this Greek pillar on Sketchfab and I scaled it down to make our display table, because why not add a touch of class? Now for Chunky Funky's AI. Chunky Funky's AI is basically a clone of the other mascots. So I copy-pasted the Munkus Lunkus blueprint, and I replaced the mesh with Chunky Funky. And then I created a new animation blueprint with the correct walk cycle. Easy peasy. And there you have it, Chunky Funky coming at you and of course, killing you. For those with less powerful PCs, I also modeled a low poly version of Chunky Funky, so you don't start a house fire. Next up, the gym room. Instead of using modular pieces, I decided to use Unreal Engine's BSP system. BSP stands for binary space partitioning. It's just a way of saying you can make shapes and then you can intersect the shapes with other shapes to make holes in the shapes. So I blocked out the room and then I cut a hole in the wall to make the doorway. After applying a brick texture to the walls and fixing minor UV issues, I used a lighter floorboard material for the floor. The gym has 2 soccer balls and 2 basketball hoops, and balls for each. I found the exact same basketball hoop and soccer goal on Sketchfab. I resized and positioned them accordingly. The balls actually needed some manual labor to fix their materials, but now they're good to go. And those are our balls. However, in testing I found that Chunky Funky actually got stuck on the basketball hoops. This is because the default collisions for the basketball hoops were absolutely balked. The basketball hoops also came in several little meshes that I combined, but that means they each had their own collision, so the collisions for the whole thing were a mess. So I deleted all the collisions and I made my own collider, which is just around the base. It's so much simpler, and now Chunky Funky no longer gets stuck. The cafeteria. We can leverage the work we did on the gym to make our cafeteria. We're going to borrow the same gym walls and floor. I changed the floor material to be a blue epoxy, and then I went to go find a cafeteria bench on Sketchfab. I'm pretty sure this is the exact same one as the original game. I imported the model and I started filling out our cafeteria. And there we have our cafeteria. I think it gives a real liminal space vibe. Let's not forget the normal classrooms. They all have a chalkboard, a teacher's desk, and a bunch of student desks and chairs. I basically copy-pasted them around, and those are our classrooms. Of course, I added a Chapter 3 button on the main menu in case you want to skip the other levels. Hang on a minute, our Chunky Funky doesn't have any voice lines, so I made some.
Chunky Funky, not a monkey. Chunky Funky, not a monkey. Chunky Funky, not a monkey. Chunky Funky, not a monkey.
And the jump scare is just a scream, a high-pitched scream. So let's align our chakras and... I split the recordings up and made it so that they played in a random order continuously. And that's our Chunky Funky, and the level pretty much good to go. However, the game has other problems, and I've got a load of miscellaneous fixes that I need to make. Munkus's voice line doesn't loop, and somebody said so in the YouTube comments, so I fixed that. Also, Munkus was kind of too small compared to the original, so I made Munkus much larger, because size matters. Sussy was kind of too big compared to the original, so I scaled him down to what he kind of should be. Yes, I nerfed him in size, but I buffed him in animation, and now he has an animation way more true to the original game. There was a bit of a bug where the monsters kind of stop moving sometimes, and the reason is I'm only using a blueprint node that moves the monster towards the player, and it's not foolproof, and sometimes it just stops dead. So to fix this, I basically replaced this silly blueprint node with a whole AI system. It has a behavior tree and everything, and that's Chunky Funky as well as all the things I fixed. You can play the game free on itch.io. If you want the project files, they're on Patreon, Ko-Fi, as well as itch. Subscribe then!